Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Ashish Mohindru, and I am the Vice President of Product Management and GM for Oracle Apex. Today, we have a pretty exciting webcast on how to modernize your forms-based applications using Oracle Apex. And we have a really exciting customer today called Humanic, who's a leader in global payroll solutions, who's going to talk about their journey of how they modernize their applications with Apex. And before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please do not use chat, but instead go to the Q&A option on Zoom and post your questions over there. We do have people moderating that particular section, and we'll be responding to your questions in real time. With that, let's begin. So just before we get to Humanic, just want to make sure for anybody who's new to Apex, they know what we're talking about today. So Apex is the world's most popular enterprise low-code application platform. It enables you to build scalable and secure enterprise apps with world-class features 20x faster with 100x less code. Not only does it do that, but it also delivers the most productive way to develop and deploy mobile and web apps everywhere, whether it's on the cloud or on premises. So today, our community of Apex developers have built over 19 million apps worldwide. Every day, our customers and developers are building anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 new Apex apps. We have a pretty broad and vast growing community of Apex developers. There are over 800,000 plus now worldwide, 60,000 plus customers, and 75% of Fortune 500 today uses Apex for application development. Apex was also last year in 2023, December 2023, was recognized by InfoWorld as the Technology of the Year for software development platforms. We're really proud of this award. And in particular, what they really talked about was how we are actually taking Apex to incorporate AI in our overall roadmap and our use to enable customers to build next generation applications with very little coding. They talked about, sounds like the future of software development. So with that, now I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelist. We have Bradley Toland, who's the co-president of Humanic Global Solutions, and also Juan Flores, who's the CTO of Humanic. Welcome, Bradley and Juan.
Okay.
Hey, Brad.
Let me go ahead and share here. Okay. My name is Bradley Toland. I'm the president of Humanic Global Solutions. We are a global payroll software and service provider. We really kind of distinguish ourselves in the market by being the company that's willing to modify our solution in order to meet our clients' needs. A lot of times clients have a hard time finding software that really fits either their compliance needs or special calculations they have out-of-the-box solutions. So we like to think of ourselves as the payroll company that says yes, because we're willing to actually modify our system to fit their needs. This kind of has moved us to multiple kind of markets, as well as just individual clients that have specific needs, but specifically the GovCon market, where they have some interesting compliance issues with Davis-Bacon, the Service Contract Act. And with Apex, we've been able to really make our solution part of one of our main partners, Janus ERP. They have a ERP solution that is focused specifically on government contracting. And we've been able to, even though they're in a SQL Server database, we're able to make our solution really a seamless part of that and part of that ERP, so that we can do those compliance things and those special calculations. Same thing on the international side. There's a lot of, when you get into international, there's a lot of different compliance issues. We focus a lot on US companies that have multiple locations with expats around the world. And we've been able to really make it part of our solution, where a lot of times, in order to deal with this sort of things, people are doing a lot of things in Excel spreadsheets. They're using third-party accounting firms. We've been able to build that in and make a really good, lower their costs for being able to do that with expats around the world. So that's a little bit of who we are.
That's great, Bradley. Let me also introduce Juan. Juan Flores, welcome, who's the CTO of Humanic. Juan, can
Thank
you
you
just
very much.
tell the
Yeah,
audience a little bit about yourself?
yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Flores. I have more than 20 years of experience working with Oracle products, and I'm currently working as a CTO of Humanic Global Solutions. Uh, we take care of the technical side of this project.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, Juan, and welcome, Bradley.
Thank you.
So maybe, Bradley, you can talk a little bit about what was the business need for modernizing your forms? Like, how many forms had you built? What were you looking to do? And how did you embark on this journey?
In order to really kind of be able to do that kind of be that kind of responsive to clients and to be able to we really have to have a platform that was a rapid development kind of a platform, a low code type of platform to be able to do that. So that's what really took us to Oracle Forms in the first place when we that Forms report Oracle Reports platform. That's where we started at 4.5 with Forms, Reports, and Discover. And we really were able to build our business on that, based on that, being able to kind of react to clients' needs very quickly. And that's what also pushed us to where we moved to Apex, of moving the forms to Apex. The reports, we moved to BI Publisher, and with Discover, the ad hoc reporting side, the Oracle OBIE.
Nice.
And getting to kind of your point there of, okay, why did we, if this platform was working so well, what really made us move to Apex? And that's when with Forms, when we moved to the web, it really was it was great that it allowed us to move. We were able to take the forms we had existing and be able to with 6i put it into the web, but it really was kind of a client server app forced into a web browser is how it felt for us. There wasn't the adaptive screens. It kind of had a client server look and feel instead of the modern UIs that our clients were looking for. With the lack of adaptive screens, it not only was it, we were having a hard time with things like tablets or phones. It really wasn't a good fit for that. But also just with how our application looked, screens were getting bigger. Every time someone was getting a new laptop or higher resolutions, our application just kept shrinking and looking kind of odd within the browser. So like I said, that led to losing to inferior solutions, rising support cost with the JVM not being supported by multiple browsers, Java updates, having to do every time there was a Java update, we were having to do a whole new test side just for that. And then put out instructions to our clients. And there was just a lot of support that was involved, just purely making it work in the browser with our clients.
And weren't you just limited to IE as well? Were you only limited to
IE was the whole decreasing browser kind of went down to IE, and also now I guess it's the older version of IE that basically Microsoft's moving to Edge, but you still have to run it in compatibility mode. It was just really it was getting more and more awkward to do that.
Interesting.
All right. So we also there was things our clients were looking for, like single sign-on, RESTful, multi-factor, and it was really hard for us to figure out a way to do that within Forms in a cost-effective way. So we were losing our ability to say yes to our clients, which is what we're completely based on.
Interesting. And then so this one basically, once you had that, and how long were you with Forms? Like, how long did you stay with Forms before you decided to move off of it?
Somewhere around 6i, Form 6i, that we were really started looking at that, seeing that there was not necessarily a a future path for Forms, and we wanted to really kind of looking for what our other options were. We took it all the way through 10G with our upgrades. And by that time, it was really getting kind of critical that we made a move. But during that time period, it was really difficult to find where we would be moving our application, because we knew what we wanted. We knew that we wanted the modern interface. We didn't want plugins anymore. We wanted a native support. We wanted to be able to have something that had a strong technical foundation, that, we can do the single sign-on, the multi-factor, all of that kind of stuff. And we also wanted to make sure that it looked like something that had a future. That, the problem is you don't know what is going to come around the next corner with technology, and what our application is going to need, what we're going to be able to do for our clients. So it had to be something that looked like it had flexibility to be able to go into the future. But what was a struggle for us is we knew what we didn't want to lose. We didn't want to lose that rapid development environment we had, and the mature platform that was just an enterprise level app platform. We had a lot of code we didn't want to have to rewrite and redo with our clients, and this one we really ideally we enjoyed being in the same ecosystem of our the front end of our product and the database. We know the database wasn't going anywhere; it was going to stay in Oracle. So ideally we wanted to stay in the ecosystem of Oracle. We struggled with this for several years of trying to figure out what that platform was, because it is a big decision to move that platform. And when we looked at JDeveloper, the skill sets we had in house and how that product was, we didn't feel like it was going to be, we were going to be able to develop as fast as we were in Forms. And we were going to have to add a lot more technical resources to our staff of knowledge. The first time we looked at Apex was way, way in the beginning, and we didn't see a platform that had that maturity yet to it. It didn't look enterprise level. So we kind of wandered around looking at different things, looked at Flash, and was like, everybody was telling us that Flash needed to be the way we go. And obviously that was a great thing that we didn't do that. But it was kind of it was a really trying to figure out what was our where we would go. And that's when we, right before version 18 is when we revisited Apex. And it was a relief seeing that it looked like it had really matured into a good platform and something that we would really be able to base our business on.
That's great.
And I'd like to, at this point, turn it over to Juan Flores, our CTO, and he can kind of tell you how we came to that decision that this was actually going to work for us.
Yeah. Thank you, Bradley. So we analyzed another tool called Application Development Framework, ADF, and we were considering both options at the beginning, but we find out that it was an easier transition for us as Oracle Forms developers. It was an easier transition to Apex than to ADF, especially if you are not really familiar with Java and development in Java. But another thing is that we wanted to get rid of the Java installations. So at that point, we disregard ADF and we just focus on what Apex could offer us. And as Bradley said, we wanted to be in a low-code development platform so we could quickly create and deploy applications to our clients. We wanted a platform that was already integrated with the database. We didn't want to be declaring objects and logging into a database every time we need to bring data to the screen. So we wanted an integrated application to the database. We knew that we wanted a responsive design application so we could fit large monitors or tablets or even cell phones. So we didn't want to lose against another applications just because of the design. We wanted to be able to customize our application to make it our own, add our brand and colors to it. So we could call it our application instead just a standard theme that everybody will be using. So with Apex, we were able to introduce CSS files and make the application looks like we wanted to. Now, being an enterprise payroll application, we need the security is a strong deal for us. So we check all the built-in security features in Apex, and we find out it fits all the checklists we require. And another really, really important for us is that we didn't want to spend more money in just setting environments. Apex comes with the database license, so you don't have an extra cost. So it was a good finding for us that we don't have to spend more money and just being able to deploy applications. So this is why we decided going with Apex.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you were able to reuse a lot of your existing skill sets, like a lot of the people that were building with forms that could easily transition to Apex at this point?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I developed Oracle Forms for 10 years. And then when we started working with Apex, it was a really easy transition for me. It took me around 3 to 4 months to just start from scratch and really being developing uh, uh, really complex pages. So it is really an easy transition if you're coming from the Oracle Forms environment to Apex. I always say that if you are a PL SQL developer, you are halfway on Apex. So it's just to get familiarized with where to uh, apply and use your code in Apex. And since in Forms you have already the triggers, those becomes dynamic actions in Apex. You have the program units that becomes procedures. So it's like an easy transition, a really easy transition if you're coming from the Oracle Forms environment.
Fantastic. And it looks like you guys did a lot of work in terms of number of forms that you migrated or modernized with Apex. So can you just talk a little bit about these numbers that we see on the slide?
Yeah. So to give you an overall idea, Humanic was built originally in around 300 forms and more than 100 reports. So we ended up with an application with more than 1,000 pages. Just because we didn't migrate one-to-one, it's just because we added a lot of new features to our application, taking advantage of all the features available in Apex. So we ended up with more than 1,000 applications, more than 1,000 pages application. And now our application is used by around 100 clients around the world. And we pay around 50,000 employees every month with the new Apex application.
Fantastic.
So the amazing result for us is we move away from a gray client-server application into a web, colorful, with a lot of features, new app.
This is great. And how long did it take you to do this, Juan?
It takes us around 18 months to complete the first client, and then we were releasing the application to all different clients. And I think within 2 years, we were all done with all the clients we have.
Fantastic. And then how large was your team? Can you talk a little bit about that? Like how many people did it take to build this?
Yeah, we can talk about that. It's just it's the next slide, but I don't know if we could show a little bit of our application, a little bit of the demo.
Sure, yeah, this is great. Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, so here's our front screen here that we kind of come into. We added a lot of kind of graphs. There was a lot of things that were kind of built up feature functionality that we wanted to add to the application, but we kind of it was too difficult with forms, and really we were ready to make that move. So we put in a lot of forms where we could kind of try to make the user, give them the access to the information they really needed to become better payroll users. Whether it's seeing their payment types, being able to drill down into the system and kind of show who those numbers were of the employees that still need to be set up with their payment types, showing who's changed since the last payroll. Really all the things that we've learned over the years we were putting into this version, we're able to with Apex, of delivering the information we knew that would potentially cause issues to payroll users. We were able to really save our existing structure that we had from a menu and a security standpoint, which was great because we didn't have to redo any of that code. Able to kind of, some of the things that was really allow us to be rapidly developing, and is with how we were able to in Apex add things where what's on a screen and where it links to is all driven by tables now. So if we needed to do an extra screen for a new client, It's simply making that change and adding, all of a sudden it comes another option on this tab without actually doing any programming. From there, being able to click and go into a brand new screen just for that particular client. So that was really great. A lot of different functionality for being able to do links and be able to put shortcuts for our clients, whether it's through our favorites or putting a workflow together on the payroll process. For the actual processing, not only were we able to kind of make everything look great, but we actually are able to, with the RESTful services, make things work better and more seamlessly on our integrations. So one of our main partners with Jameis, they have a timesheet and labor system that we need to pull that is very specifically for making sure that they're compliant, but they have all the data we need in order to run the payroll for getting the labor and the earnings that the employees has. So when we execute the payroll, it's now part of our payroll process that it's doing that web call as part of our normal process when it's running through the payroll. So nice. This payroll process then ends with, I let it hang too long, the calculation results, and drops in, giving us that labor, pulling it in from third-party sources, and being able to do the calculation. We were then able to kind of show through graphs an additional type of reporting to clients, being able to say, okay, whose gross pay has changed by over $2,000, and giving graphs and showing where there are potential issues. And one of the things we've really incorporated a lot of is the reporting down here associated with it, with the grids, the interactive grids. It kind of gives you a report writer, a mini report writer on every screen if you're using it properly. So you can put the grid on there. Every kind of screen where we can, we're adding that grid so that the user can have specific reports that they have, custom client reports there. It gives them a lot of options of being able to even just do filtering, formatting. And one of the ones I love the most is on the data here of being able to do a flashback, where I can say, okay, what did our payroll look like 60 minutes ago before we started making some changes, and be able to see that in the screen here of what it was. So a lot of good options there. We are giving both a graphical view to our client of kind of focusing on the areas we know that they need to be able to see, as well as giving them a grid to where they could be able to kind of create their own reports and have a lot of even graphing kind of thing as well with it. Whereas before we were just basically calculating the payroll here, and the two options they had was the Discover ad hoc reporting, and then also the traditional type check registers. Of course, they still have that and be able to run, yet again, the grid, always following them, always giving them that grid option. And then they're able to, through Oracle BI Publisher, we're able to deliver kind of the traditional reports we've always delivered with their check registers and things like that. So it was a really huge kind of move from looking at those processes this way and seeing when they were running before, when they were running in the forums version, they really were just running that process and really not having that data delivered right back to them. So that was a great change. But with any, you're moving technologies, things are different. And one of the kind of the interesting parts of this was trying to make sure that the functionality we had within forums that we really liked was still something that we could do within Apex. So one of the things was the pinning, where we had a nice functionality, and I think it was really handy to be able to say, okay, I'm going to have two screens up and be able to flip back and forth and take a look at, okay, how is this employee's taxes set up? How did that do their track? And how would we accomplish that within Apex? So a lot of times you do have to rethink how you're doing things. And that's where we decided with the new window and take advantage of the browser to be able to pull out that information and be able to get ourselves two screens. So the pinning functionality had to kind of change to adapt it to the new environment. But we're able to do the kind of the same thing where the employee still follows you, and that you'll be able to see that kind of thing. So it was a really, there were some challenges of figuring out how we were going to mimic the functionality, but there was always a way. We always found a way to be able to mimic what we were doing in Forms and obviously do it a lot better and have a lot more functionality along the way.
This is great. I think the application looks so much more modern and 21st century versus the previous one. But quick question on that one, Bradley. Was there any pushback from your users? Because it's quite a difference in terms of the UX or the user experience, where in the old form stuff, customers sometimes love the tabular interface. And now going into point and click with Apex, was there any issues or was there any adoption issues or challenges that you encountered as you rolled this out?
Worried about the same thing. And one of the things that we did, and we'll talk about this a little later, is when I'm running this right here, I'm actually running against the same demo data. The way we made sure that when we were going forward, we took the time to make sure that it was going to be backwards compatible. So we created kind of a low risk adoption. When they upgraded to the Apex version, they all knew that the old version still worked. So there was a bunch of much lower risk in the move because they always knew they could fall back on what that was reliable to them. The other thing is we made sure we added a lot of feature functionality. So from like the payroll calculation process here, they're able to do calculation groups now where they don't have to calculate the entire group. We put a lot of functionality in here that really kind of incentivize the user to not only, sometimes it's hard, even though it's a lot better, to get people to change. And we really did not run into much of that at all. I mean, everybody really was excited to make the move, and they saw the benefits and the speed that they was getting them and how it was making their job so much easier that nobody really wanted to go back.
That's fantastic. This is great. Let me also bring in now, Juan. Can you talk a little bit about, the development team now, what it took to build something like this, and also a little bit more on the architecture of what that looks like in the backend?
Yeah. So Bradley, could you stop sharing so I could share my screen, please?
Sure.
Okay, you're able to see my screen now, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So all you have seen was built with originally with the three Oracle Forms developers over 30 years or so in Oracle Forms. And we strongly recommend to you to add at least one senior Apex admin developer, so this resource can pass the knowledge and how-tos to the Oracle Forms developers. It will save you a lot of time, so these developers doesn't have to learn every time new functionality, and this senior resource can make your life easier in this migration project. All the 1,000 pages and 300 forms, we ended up migrating all those with the Apex developer team. And like I said, the first client rollout to production was done in 18 months. So we migrated all these 300 Oracle Forms and reports in about 18 months or so.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. But what are the main challenges on these kind of migration projects? We identified, at least in our case, being an enterprise application with several clients using the same application. In Forms, we move, in Forms, the login and authentication was by a schema user base. We have to translate that into Oracle Apex users. So we ended up changing our authentication from schema databases users to applications, Oracle Apex users. Another thing is the business logic. we took advantage of this migration process and move away from having the business logics in the screens into having the business logics in the database. What we did is, for example, we have the calculation screen form with all the program units. We migrated all those into database procedures. So for example, here we have your FMB with your screen. You have all these program units. This screen has a lot of logic here in the actual screen. And we ended up migrating all that into a main package for each FMB and created procedures for each program unit. So at the end in Apex, we just call this main package, and this main package is doing all the jumping that used to be in the form. So this ended up to be a great thing for us because the maintenance is so much easier to have your business logic in the database and then use Apex for the interface only for the user. Now, you have a lot of functionality in Apex, but I would recommend you to do it this way so you will save a lot of time in the maintenance aspect of it.
You're basically decoupling, you just decouple the logic from the UX, right? So you basically said, okay, now it's much easier. You can make changes to the logic without impacting the UX as much, and vice
Exactly.
versa.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end, you're able to move some of the logic. If you have triggers, you can move those into dynamic actions. But in our case, it was it just makes sense to move most of the logic to packages, so we could easily maintain, because at the end, you know, for example, this becomes more than 5,000 lines. So it's just easier to maintain that in a package than all over the places in the screens. So we ended up doing it like in that way.
Fantastic.
Another main thing, if you are coming from the Oracle environment world, you most likely use Oracle reports too. And this is the only, I would say, sorry, I would say the only downside of Apex is that to build pixel perfect reports, you need to use a third-party tool too. Now, this tool is called and used by Apex, but you need to figure out your options there. And you have plenty of options. You have BI Publisher to do the PDF reporting. There is another option called Application of Sprint that you could use too. But in our case, since we were migrating already from Oracle Discoverer to OBIE, we took advantage of that and we used BI Publisher as our printer server. So let me show you how it looks. Let's say, for example, you have an Oracle report like this one. This is, in our case, to create the checks, where you have your data model with your query and you have your layout. Then this becomes, if you're using BI Publisher, this becomes an RTF template. And it's kind of the same thing. You define your layout and you use variables too. But using this, you're able to translate or migrate all your reports into RTF templates in BI Publisher. Now, this gets translated into, for example, your data model gets translated into report queries in your Apex app. For example, we migrated all these queries. Here you have, you can define your data models. And then on the shared components too, but on the report layout is where you load your RTF templates. And then this template uses the query from the data model, and then you could combine those and have your PDF reporting tool within Apex.
Hey, Juan, we're getting a few questions. So there, one of the viewers asking, did you use separate schemas for the Apex application and the data, or is everything on one schema?
So in our case, we have again, this is just us because we are an enterprise application. We have one schema with all the business logic, and then we have the client's schemas that are using these packages to process the data. But you could use just one client schema with all your package procedures, tables, and views, and point your Apex database to that schema only. So you could use a combination of depending on your needs, but everything could be in just one schema, or you could combine them with several schemas.
Fantastic. Another question is there additional licensing for BI Publisher? Did you have to pay anything extra for BI Publisher? But it looks like you already had that as part of your existing licenses, right?
Yeah, there is a separate licenses for BI Publisher, but in our case, we already bought that since we were using OBIE. BI Publisher comes with the enterprise edition of the OBIE app.
Yeah, that was a consideration also, was in the pricing of adding the OBIE, because we had to replace Discover already, because our clients expected a ad hoc reporting tool to come along with it. Right. That's kind of why we went down that road. But I think the AOP, AOP is really is a non-Oracle company that it focuses on this. It's another option that's probably lower cost.
Yeah, but it's a partner of Oracle, and it's already as an option on your printer server setup in Apex.
Right. Fantastic. Another question they're asking is the look and feel on Apex is looking good and modern. Did you use like any designers or did your existing developers basically build out that UI?
Yeah, we originally had this. Well, we have a designer in part of the team that he recommended a little bit of the CSS, how to make our application look like. We have a designer, but all the work, all the development work was done by the Apex developers.
Fantastic. Also, since you're integrating with OBIEE and I'm assuming some other systems, did you use any REST APIs, or how was those integrations done?
Well, for pixel perfect reporting, you don't need APIs. You just need to set up BI Publisher as a printer server on the Apex admin area. But you could use APIs right now. For example, in our case, we are using single sign-on integration or single sign-on login from the Apex application to OBIE, and that's through an API. But for PDF reporting, you don't need APIs. This is just a setup within Apex.
But we've done a lot with the RESTful APIs have been huge for us, and how easy that is to set up, and how I was kind of discussing before how we can make it part of our calculation process where we're accessing data from a lot of third parties. So with
that's another thing.
Yeah, it really made the integrations with our clients a lot better.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Our partners.
With the built-in RESTful services in Apex, we were able to publish endpoints to our application. So another third-party vendors are able to get data, and we are able now to send data to them too. So that's another great thing we find out with Apex, the already built-in RESTful services integrations.
Yes. One last question, and I think then we'll move on, is which part of migration is most complex and time-consuming? From your journey so far, what would you say?
I would say just originally, I would say the authentication is one of the main things you need to consider, but after that, you need to change the way you're thinking things. I mean, moving away from the client server to the web application, just to understand all the features you have available with Apex and take advantage of those. And in our case, we didn't only migrate a form to an Apex page. If we were doing that, we will do it so much quicker. It's just that we took advantage on that, and we modernize and add more features to our application. So you will see that now you have so much options available, and you wanna use all of them. So I would say just consider those options and make sure you don't extend too much your project, but take advantage of all the features you have in Apex.
Great. All right, one last question. I think they just keep on coming, but I think this is the last one, then we'll move on for sure. But this is a good one. They're asking, did you utilize Apex Form Migration Project utility for tracking objects on FMB files? And if yes, what extent it was useful?
No, we give it a try at the beginning, to be honest, but we thought it was easier to just migrate from scratch than being debugging and trying to fix code that a tool already did. So we just migrated the forms from scratch into new Apex new Apex pages. We didn't use the tool. We just give it a try at the beginning. We didn't like it, to be honest. And since we were incorporating so much features, we just thought that it makes sense more to do it from scratch and add all the features you want than just migrate.
Great. Thanks, Juan. So it sounds like you guys went through a long, extended period of about 2 years of this entire migration. You built an amazing application. Maybe you can just talk about, your journey a little bit more, and also what were the end results? What did you benefit from this whole exercise?
Okay, yeah. So our journey, I would recommend you to follow these steps. This is what we did in our case. First, identify your scope, create an inventory of your forms and reports you need to migrate and classify them by their complexity. Define your security, as we mentioned. You just need to understand what are the security differences between forms and Apex. Create UI standards. They will save you a lot of work because once you have your inventory, you know what are the different kind of pages you need. If you need a master detail page, you need a form page. Once you have your standard, you could reuse your pages with the Apex technology just to copy and paste, and you could save a lot of time doing that. And like I said, if you're doing this investment, then not only migrate, but try to improve your application with all the available features that Apex has, and take advantage of all of them if possible. And I would recommend you just to start developing. I mean, Oracle makes it really easy for you to start developing in Apex. There is an always free database in the cloud you could use for start developing, or you could request Apex workspace in the apex.oracle.com page. So it's really easy to start developing in Apex. You don't have to spend money in just setting up an environment to develop in Apex.
Fantastic.
Another thing you need to consider is that when you're moving your application to production, since we needed to make it backwards compatible, we ended up migrating the menu groups and user tables into new Apex menu groups and user tables. So we have now 2 front doors to the same database. So we wanted 2 new authentication methods and security, so we don't, affect the old version with the new one. But the good thing is that your main data, your business data, remains the same. You could remain using the same tables you used to have in your old application. But you need to consider if you have any schema security or schema tables where you were processing data, you need to convert those into temporary tables, or in the case of views with security, you need to convert those into Apex security, based views. And the way to roll out is, for example, if you have a team of developers, in our case, all are developing in the same application in a workspace, in the development workspace. We do the export. We export the application and import it into the QA workspace. From there, we copy the applications into each of our clients' schemas. We change the parsing schema in those applications, so it's owned by the the client schema. We do our testing, and if we find any bugs, it goes back, and then the process is repeated until everything looks good, and we do the production release. Again, we do the export, and then we have a template release in production that we do the same thing. We copy the applications into the schema for the clients.
So we really had to kind of change our way of thinking on that. It was just really kind of really thinking of it, how to roll out a Apex application versus how we did it with Forms. With Forms, it was more screen specific, where really with Apex, it really needed to be the whole system for each client. It needed to be rolled out that way. So in the end, it's just a different process, but it's something that you need to think about of how you roll out, a different way of thinking about your rollouts.
Yeah, and this is
Bradley,
by the time.
I'm sorry. I think one of the things I wanted to just talk about was you first rolled out to one client. You tested one client before you brought it to scale and rolled out to the entire install base, right?
That's correct.
Actually, a couple of clients.
We started with our main, like a client around 6,000 employees was our first on Apex, and went through kind of our beta release with that client, and it was pretty smooth. It was relatively smooth. I mean, for as much as we were changing and all that, it was a really smooth transition. So we really kind of very quickly after that started adding additional clients on. And then really everybody who was new was going on to that. And then we started working with our individual clients of working with them and their rollout. Some clients have very specific things you need to go through in order to roll out a new application. So it was a lot of that was driven by our clients after that of how they wanted to go through the rollout process.
Fantastic. And how long did it take you to do the entire rollout from your very first client all the way to the install base?
Go to the next screen. One. All right. It was 12 months. So we had 18 months, which a lot until our first live customer when we started this migration. But after we migrated, we had all our clients moved in 12 months, which was both of those were a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. And the 18 months, a lot of that was, a lot of that dealt with planning of how we were going, how long. Of how we wanted to build the application and kind of learning Apex. And like Juan said, having somebody with Apex knowledge really helped that process, because we were thinking in a Forms perspective, and we really needed to, how do we do these sort of things in Apex and starting off with those kind of best practices. But yeah, it was 12 months. Once everybody saw it, and the fact that we had a backward compatibility, I think made a huge difference. It made it so much easier to make those transitions.
That's awesome.
How it affected our business, it was a really extremely successful decision for us. We saw an immediate 53% increase in our sales. The look and feel was really holding us back. We stopped losing to those systems that we knew we had the functionality was better, but our look and feel was holding us back. And we were able to hold that even through COVID. It still stayed over 50% increase from the Forms era. That decrease in development time, at the same time, we're decreasing our development by 35%. A lot of that, what I was kind of showing in the demo, where things were based on tables and able to add screens without having to really put the code in there for that, is just really, you can see the decrease. You can see where it's coming from in your development time. And the 15% of no longer having to be part of the client's workstation because it's a native to their browser. We had so much success that really, we have a lot of contacts over the years within Forms world, and we were ahead of a lot of people that were having applications like us. So we even ended up with an additional business unit of Humanic Technical Solutions that we've been able to help provide resources and help other companies like ours and with their migration. So we're even able to turn it a little bit into a profit area. So it's awesome. It's been a fantastic move for us.
That's terrific. couple of things like before we get into the roadmap stuff, what features of Apex, I mean, Juan and Bradley, maybe either one of you can answer this, you benefit the most from with Apex or you like the most within Apex?
The biggest benefit, well, first off, that 53% increase in sales because it looks nice. That's been a really nice benefit. But
But in terms
I
of
think it's
features, any
yeah, the
specific features of
features,
Apex that you like a lot?
the fact that it's all in the database is really really helpful from a development and a troubleshooting standpoint. The fact that you can just run the application and be able to highlight the area where you're having problems and it takes you right to the code, that's been great. For the feature function, how the RESTful services is kind of tied in has been a really kind of opening up how many different third-party vendors we can work with, because we are a best of breed application, and a lot of times we are part of a bigger solution, like with our one partner where we need to pull data from them or we need to be able to transfer data, and we're able to now build our application in a way with our integrations where it looks like that we did this all together 10 years ago. And because the integration and the data moving back and forth is so smooth, it's part of the process. It makes it look like it was all built. It's exactly how we would have done it had we done it together. So that's been a really game changer for us.
That's great.
Yeah, it has been the RESTful services is a game changer, but we have also seen that with the latest version of Apex, there is so much more functionality we are planning to add. We are moving to the cloud in 2024 to the autonomous database. We will be adding more features. But another great feature we saw is the PWA. So it will be looking more as a native app than a web browser app. And we also saw in the last Oracle Cloud World, we just saw the machine learning and the AI functionality working, and it was awesome. I mean, we are also planning to incorporate that into our application.
Fantastic. And we can turn it into an AI-powered app. This is excellent.
We saw that there was just recently a Oracle webinar on the speech to SQL. And
yes.
I immediately started telling Juan, we need the Hey Humanic to have our own Siri version of doing queries. But if we can add another way for clients to be able to interact and get the data they need out of the database, that's just huge. And with all this coming out, it kind of really was showing us that that other thing that was hard to tell, that this was going to be a platform that had a future, that was going to continue to, whenever anything new came out, it was going to be able to be adapting to it. We'd see the new features in the Foundation platform to be able to allow us really to still be that payroll company that says yes. And that's was always our big concern of, is this going to be, as new things come out that we don't even know about yet, will the platform be able to support it? And so far, that has been everything we're seeing. Is it's every time there's something new, Apex we're seeing new features in it to be able to take advantage of it.
Fantastic. And currently, I'm assuming you're running on Apex. What version of Apex are you running on right now?
Right now, the in-house is 18. We're still back on our production side at, what was it, Juan?
18.1. Yeah.
So
we are on 23.2 now.
Up a lot of things to us. Yeah.
Great.
There was we have with some of our partners in the government GovCon world has kind of slowed down some of our adoptions in the new, and that's one of the things we're looking for with the OCI and getting into the government area to be FedRAMP compliant with our move to that, with all the things that's coming out with that. Oracle's government area and OCI is going to help a lot with that as well, so we can move forward with upgrades faster.
That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, Apex running on autonomous database is FedRAMP approved, so you get the benefit of that right out the bat once you provision that service. This is exciting. Anything you would like last words you want to share with the audience in terms of their approach to forms, any learnings, any best practices that you may want to just leave with?
Well, in our case, in my case at least, coming from the Oracle Forms environment, where you have to build your FMV, then compile it, move it to the server, and then execute it. It used to take a lot of time just to test whatever development you just did. So for Apex, it's just really quick. You just do a change, save it, and run it, and it saves you a lot of time. And I can tell you that I enjoy my life more as an Apex developer than as an Oracle Forms developer, to be honest. I will 100% recommend Apex, and we noticed that all the features we needed in Forms are available and more in Apex. And for me, it looks like Apex is the future of Oracle.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Well,
and I
thank
would
you,
say
Juan.
that it's just
Well,
making sure that you think about. I mean, there's always it's a different mindset, and it's getting yourself thinking about a web application as opposed to something that's more built for client server. And it took me a little bit to get my head wrapped around that. And it was interesting because I loved Forms, and I was like the last one kind of gripping hold of it, saying, "This is a great tool, and I want to continue to use it." But then once we got into the Apex project, every time I have to go into Forms, it felt like it hurt a little bit. Having to leave the Apex environment. So it's just getting, a lot of things like with that pinning feature we had on there, of just rethinking about, okay, how do I solve the problem differently? And the great news is we always found a way to do it.
Fantastic. Well, I would really want to thank you both, Juan and Bradley, for sharing your journey with us. This is really, really insightful and really terrific. And I hope our audience got some value out of this as well. And I want to thank everybody for attending today's session. If you have any particular questions specific to Humanic, please feel free to reach out to Bradley or Juan. Their email addresses are on the slide. You can also get more information about forms modernization on apex.oracle.com website. There's a whole section dedicated to modernizing forms with Apex. So we look forward to hearing from you, your feedback, and look forward to your insights as well. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for today's session.
thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.